Hi and welcome to I'm excited about this, the first episode of the Dipping Diaries. The Dipping Diaries is a podcast all about, you've guessed it, dipping. Cold water therapy, whether you do it in wild swims, whether you do it in the lochs, anywhere around the world, it's going to be talking about the benefits and the stories of what got us to the dipping. I'm Cuddy Cudworth, your host of the Dipping Diaries, and with every episode we will have a different guest speaker on. And today, this is a big deal, by the way, Laurie. This is a big deal.
A big deal.
This is episode 1 of series 1 of the Dipping Diaries. You'll always remember.
Amazing.
First. They say that, right?
Yeah, I like being the first. That's good.
So, Laurie, introduce yourself. Say hi to everyone that's going to be listening to this. And we're going to be talking about the reason you got into dipping. And I think you were quite new to dipping from what I remembered when we were dipping yesterday. So, Laurie, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Well, I'm Laurie. Hi. I am from Leslie in Fife. I'm a holistic therapist, and I've been doing that for about 12 years now. Brilliant. Absolutely love it.
And what is a holistic therapist? Okay,
so a holistic therapist is someone who works with the whole of the person when they do therapy. So I do obviously massage and facials and the usual sort of treatments, but I work with the mind as well as the body. So, well, it's the mind, body and soul, spirit, however you want to look at it. It's the whole of the person. So you're not just looking at superficial symptoms, you're looking beneath the surface. A bit like a duck in water. You're looking at the feet.
Okay, cool. Nice. I love that. Absolutely fantastic. So when we got dipping, I just thought you had a fabulous story. I'm like, do you know what? This would make a great podcast. So, and it is one with all the guests that we're going to get on it. We once you get chatting to people in the dipping world, if you like, you have some amazing stories, and there's so many amazing people that even when we met yesterday, there was 5 unique stories there. I'm like, people need to hear the stories and why they started dipping. So, Laurie, what was it that brought you to cold water therapy and dipping? What was it that brought you? Because you're quite new. You said you started in July, I believe.
That's right. I only started cold water swimming in July. I've always loved swimming. And during the summer holidays, I spoke to my husband about taking swimming up again. Just kind of going to the swimming pool, doing it in the morning, that kind of thing. And we were struggling to kind of fit in times with work and his work and share the car and finances as well. We were looking at the financial side of things as well, because a membership for the gym is pretty expensive these days.
Yep.
So I had kind of looked at it from those angles, but I was also looking at my health. I'm always looking for something that's going to help my health. I've followed Wim Hof for a long time with cold water immersion stuff. And yeah, well, I'm kind of going through the menopause just now as well. So I've got lots of different symptoms that are kicking in. And I'm always looking for a holistic approach to dealing with those symptoms and looking for my clients. I do a little, I won't recommend anything to my clients unless I've tried it myself. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he said, what took you, if you've been a fan of Wim Hof for a long time, and even before I started dipping, I didn't know about Wim Hof. It wasn't until after, because I know I love dipping. I've done it for about 2 years now. It was middle of COVID when I started doing it, and I'd been seeing some of my friends. So I know you got to get into cold water. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've heard. I'm not doing that. It's absolutely silly. I'm not doing it. And then I thought, well, if everyone's talking about it, right, I'm going to do it. So I did it. It was the best thing ever. And we'll talk about those benefits and things. So what took you so long to get into the cold water? If you knew about Wim Hof and things like that, what took you so long? What was the apprehension?
I don't think there was any apprehension as such. I just didn't take that step. I don't know what stopped me. It was just... Yeah, I wasn't reluctant to do anything. Like you say, I wasn't apprehensive. I just didn't find the time. I didn't make the time. I didn't prioritize it. It wasn't, I'd done a few different other activities during the whole sort of COVID thing where I was out in outdoors walking with my friends, soaking up the tree energy.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, there wasn't really anything that stopped me from doing it specifically. I took the leap when I think it was a full moon swim back in July, and we kind of approached it from the more sort of spiritual sense, and it was a bit spooky doing it under the full moon, that kind of thing. And as soon as I started, I knew that this was it. There was no stopping. I was just going to keep going from there. And it took away the whole, it wasn't the spiritual side of it that I was doing it for at that point. From that minute on, it wasn't anything to do with being under a full moon or anything like that. It was genuinely being part of the crowd, having that support network with you. The people that were there were just so friendly, you know, that there was nobody would be judgmental. There was none of that. It was all just a big family instantly, and it was just so welcoming. And as I say, from that minute on, I just kept going.
Absolutely fantastic. I love that. Now, for anyone that's listening, there's dipping groups all over the UK. There's dipping groups all over the world. But we are both Fife based. So how did you stumble on? Because the hope for the podcast is for people to be able to stumble across the podcast and think, well, this is something that I want to start doing. So you said you were doing walks to get the tree energy, and I loved that, getting the energy from the trees. What's the difference between getting energy for the water for you? How beneficial do you find from getting energy from the water?
I've always been attracted to water, and I know nature in general. I know even my husband will laugh about this all the time, and even before obviously doing the dipping, he would say to me, do you need to go to the beach? Well, we'll go to the beach today. So he knew that if there was something going on upstairs for me, do you know, if I was a bit, I don't know, a bit off.
A bit off. There's nothing wrong with saying a bit off. Yeah, absolutely.
Just fine. A bit crabbit.
Crabbit.
Yeah. Do you know, there was he was able to tell. He was able to tell, as you do. So it was always a recommendation. He was like, come on, we'll go to the beach, or come on, we'll go for a walk in the woods. But the beach was always the place that there was an emotional attachment to it. And I would go and I would wander up and down the sand, and my feet would be in the sand, and I'd pick through the stones. And you know, every time I picked up a stone, I'd have a little feel about with it. And then
so it's grounding. You were actually grounding yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, for anyone that doesn't know what grounding is really being completely mindful in the moment and really attaching to the sight, the sense, and the smell of where you are. It's a phenomenal thing to do for panic attacks, actually, because we get caught up with the thoughts and the conversations that we have. The monkey mind, of which I'm always talking about on my other podcast. Absolutely, those conversations. So that's grounding. And connecting with Mother Earth, which is a powerful thing, which is part of the therapy for cold water therapy. A lot of people don't understand. So you've said you're going through the menopause thing. I genuinely appreciate you talking about that. Do you want to, for anybody else who's going through the menopause, what benefits? Because the other lady we talked to said, oh yeah, I was going through the menopause as well, and it just regulates. That's Alison, correct?
Yeah, Alison. Yeah,
Alison.
There's quite a few of us actually.
Yeah. So what is the benefits for your journey going through the menopause, and how does it help regulate you?
For me, it regulates the hot flushes.
Yeah.
It helps with my bones and my joints, because I'm quite an achy person. I've got arthritis in my hip. So I know that if I haven't been swimming for a while, my bones start to ache, my joints start to ache, and the hot flushes come back. And that was just a side effect of the swimming. I had no idea. I mean, I know cold water immersion has major health benefits, but I had no idea that it would impact the menopause symptoms from that angle. I didn't know that would happen. And I knew obviously, I mean, you recommended to go swimming because it's a weightless exercise. You're in the water. We recommend horses and animals, and they all do recovery from operations in the water therapy. But again, I had never really made that connection between the menopause and the cold water. I don't know why I didn't.
Now you're in the water, it makes sense, right?
Absolutely, 100%, and I'll never stop doing it. never.
Absolutely. So how did you find out about the Seafield Sinkers? Again, for any of our listeners, the Seafield Sinkers is just past Kirkcaldy, and it's one of the many, many dipping groups that's around the Fife Coast area. And again, we'll give a shout out to so many of those dipping groups just to get people dipping and stuff like that. So how did you find out about the Seafield Sinkers?
Well, the full moon swim back in July was through in Lower Largo with the Swans of a Beach.
Right.
It was a bit of a group gathering. So there was the Swans of the Beach, the Seafield Sinkers. I think there was some bonny black swans there as well, and the Wild Skins. And it had been an advert on the Wild Skins Facebook page that connected me to the Lower Largo swim. And then obviously just from there, you get involved with all the other groups and you start to join. Like you said, you start to join all the other groups and you work out who's doing a swim where and what would suit you best. And the Seafield Sinkers is the most local one for me. So that's how I've ended up kind of attaching myself to that little family.
Absolutely fantastic. And when you get into those dipping groups, there's so much if you look in the Facebook groups that are around, there's so many. And I'll give a shout out to a couple. There is the Wild Skins you've mentioned, which is down Celadite way. There's the Menopausal Mermaids down that way as well. Coming further up the coast, then you have the Swans of a Beach, the Leave and Looney Dukers, the Five Dippers, Mental Health Dipping Society. Yeah. Then you go into Kirkcaldy, you've got the Bonny Black Swans, you've got the Seafield Sinkers. All the way. I think I've just found a new group, which is the Baywatch Burnt Island. And I love that name. I was like, that's absolutely brilliant. The Baywatch Burnt Island.
That's a good one.
That is phenomenal. I love that. And again, if I'm missing out any of the dipping groups, there's the Edinburgh Blue Balls, there's the Blue Tits. And Laurie, I don't know if you know, there was a couple of ladies I was dipping with the other day from, Hornsey, the Hornsey Menopausal Mermaids.
Oh. I've never heard of those ones.
They were from Hornsey, which is just down past Hull. There was two lovely ladies, and they were like, "All right, no, that's yeah." So I enjoy the conversations that I have with people just on the Fife Coast and things like that. But it's just so good to get the benefits of cold water therapy out to people. So, Laurie, generally, what does it do for you? For anyone that's listening, thinking, "Oh, I've been thinking about it, but I don't know. I feel apprehensive. I don't really know anybody. I don't want to squeal and shout when you get into the water." Now, I'll be honest, first time I got in the water, I squealed and shouted, and it was the best release of all negative energy I got in my life. It was unbelievable. But to anyone that's not dipped before, what would you generally say to him, Laurie? What would be your words of advice?
I think there was a comment on Facebook the other day. There was a girl who'd said that she was really apprehensive about making the change from a wetsuit to wearing a swimming costume because she was ashamed of her body. And straight away, I'm just kind of reassured. I was like, "Have you seen me? I look like I don't know what to explain myself. I think it was a purple, blueberry, something or other." I was like, it really doesn't matter what you look like. Nobody's there to make any judgments. That was the one thing that kind of stood out when I went to that first swim. I was a bit apprehensive myself with it being my first swim and with a big group of other women. I didn't know what to expect. But everybody's just so welcoming. There are no judgments. There is nobody that would be horrible to you. Do you know that there's nothing like that. Everybody just wants to be in the water. They want the freedom of the water. They want the peace of mind that they get from being in the water. And another lady had asked me, she said something, one of my customers, she wants to come swimming, but she's worried about the questions that will be asked. She's got a bit of a history in her. There's stuff going on for her, and she doesn't want to be dealing with those questions. And I just reassured her that nobody would be asking any questions. I can't remember the last time anybody actually said, "So, where's your family? How many children have you got?
No,
Where do you live?"
Never had that question.
No, it's just never come up in conversation. And unless you bring up this information, nobody's there for that. They're just there for the swim. They're not there for anything. And they make friendships out of it if they want. but it's predominantly it is the swim and the peace of mind that they get from it.
Yeah. The peace of mind, the calmness that you get. So you started in July.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to be in the, I'm asking, it's a good question. How are you going to be in the winter? Because July is a good time to start.
Yes.
But the real, I hate to say it, but the ones that dip through the winter, funnily enough, quite a few of the dippers locally were like, I like dipping in the summer, but I genuinely miss the fun that we have in the winter because the water's not that much colder, but it's cold before you get in.
Yeah.
How are you going to get through the winter? What plans have you got in place, Laurie? Because you've said you don't want to be away from the water. I know what winter dipping is all about. It's absolutely amazing. The feeling you get, that's when you get the glow. So have you had the I like to call it the lobster glow, the euphoria, Laurie? Have you had the dipping glow yet?
I think so, and my customers have also commented on how I glow in the morning as well. So there's definitely something happening. And I mostly do morning swims anyway, so it's always freezing. It's always cold, especially just now. I know I started in July. I'm on a count of, I think, swim 67 or 68 today, something like that. And it is usually a morning swim that I do before work. So getting up at 5 o'clock for the last 8 weeks, Monday to Friday. I'm pretty dedicated, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely you are. Absolutely. I did see the pictures of you dipping in the dark. And as comfortable as I am, look, for anyone listening, I'm very honest. I still don't like dipping in the dark. And I'm 45. And whenever I go in the water in the dark, the only thing that ever pops up for me is
yes, absolutely.
Without fail. It's the jaw.
I've got a thermometer that hangs on my float, and I've got Velcro around my ankles for my boots as well. And if the Velcro comes unattached, oh my God, you get the fright of your life. And if this thermometer touches the side of your leg, or your float floats past you at a different angle, it's like, oh.
It is, right? And this is the conversation. So I coach people into the water, and I get people into the water just for doing a simple breathing practice. And I just tell them, all you need to do is actually focus on your breath. The conversations will start. Oh my God, the panic sets in. And I'm like, no, just focus on your breath. Just focus on your breath, in and out, in and out. And everyone's like, oh my, it was so much. The biggest thing that everybody else is, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Exactly. Most of the things that we create in our imagination are so much worse than what actually happens in the water and things like that. So a couple of tips for anyone that's getting into, and Laurie, I'm sure you'll have some as well, is don't dip alone for your first time. Don't dip alone. There's so many great dipping groups all over the UK that will help you and support you getting you into the water. You never have to dip alone. And don't ever fear the embarrassment of getting into the water. Did you have any? You didn't have any embarrassment when you first stepped in the water, Laurie, did you?
The very first one, not so much getting in the water, but getting undressed in front of everybody. And because I was just a swimming costume, I'm a larger lady as well. I'm not a little skinny mini. So the whole getting undressed in front of everybody and then walking from, because we walked from it was a sailing club in Lower Largo, we walked from the steps there right the way down to the water in front of everybody was a bit, this is a bit daunting. But then, like you said, once you're in, it's fine. It's like that whole Michael McIntyre thing that's flying around just now. There's a joke and he's like, it's okay once you're in. Look at me, it's fine once you're in. But it genuinely is fine once you're in. There's nothing to worry about other than maybe the odd jellyfish in the summer, or like you say, the shark that's up in your mind, or
the shark that's in your mind, 100%. So I went dipping once at night. Well, I say nighttime. It was the middle of winter, so I went dipping at 5 o'clock, and it was pitch black. It looked like midnight. That's Scotland for you. And I went in with the float thing, and I put the torch inside the float. And I thought, all right, at least I better see what I'm going into when I'm going at 5:30 in the afternoon. It looks like midnight. And the water was crystal clear, and the torch was lighting up the sand, and there was crabs and starfish, and I'm like, wow, you wouldn't have seen this. Again, the stories that we create in our imagination and the way that we suffer up in our mind is so much more than what you're actually going to do when you get into the water. Absolutely fantastic. Still not a fan of dipping in the dark, but I will do it, and I do love a good sunrise dip. I do love
the sunrise dips are amazing. Absolutely.
Oh, especially in the winter because it's 8:30 in the morning. I don't have to get up too early.
We're missing them just now because it's so late. Normally,
yes,
I mean,
it's still quite early. What's the sunrise dip for you at the moment now? 7:15, is
it? Well, sunrise kind of starts. The clocks go back. Is it Sunday they go back? Yeah. So we'll get a little bit of an hour to play with for the next couple of weeks, but then it'll start getting later again. So, but it does start to peak through around about the 7:15, 7:30 mark. It doesn't actually appear in the sky until about 8 o'clock ish. Yeah. That's a bit late for us because we all do the swim before work, so we're usually away from the beach by about 7:15.
Yes. So there's plenty of ladies and gentlemen down at the Seafield Sinkers, which is just past Kirkcaldy in Fife. It's just behind Morrison's, right?
That's right, the car park at the back of Morrison's.
That's right, absolutely, for anyone that was wondering there. So for Laurie, for any of our listeners or anyone that's thinking, oh, I'm just debating on whether should I get in the water, what is your top tip for them, Laurie?
To just do it. Absolutely, just go for it. You've got absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. So will you be dipping forever and never walking away from the water without a smile on your face?
Never without a smile. Absolutely not. It'll be frozen solid.
It will be frozen solid. I will give you a heads up. In the winter, Kinghorn is a loch that freezes over.
Oh, is it?
Kinghorn is a really good one for getting the proper ice cold dipping. Yes.
This is the one thing I want. I want to get to my 100 dips before Christmas.
Yeah.
And I want to do the ice. I want to break the ice.
Absolutely. It's phenomenal up at Kinghorn, and I've always got a spy who just lives behind Kinghorn, and they always text me, FYI, it's frozen over. Right, I'm coming over.
Give me a shout, definitely.
But you're from Leslie, so actually another place for you to dip in the winter when it freezes over is I've forgotten the name of it. There's a reservoir, which in the winter the fishermen don't go to, so you're allowed to go in and dip. There's a walkway in, and it gets really thick, and it's a reservoir just at the back of Windygates.
Oh,
yes, there is. There's and you can park and you can walk up, and it's just at the back of Windygates.
I'll have a look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
No, not a problem. Thank you so much for being on the first episode. How was the first episode for you, Laurie? How was it to be invited on as a guest and an expert in the Dipping Diaries?
Oh, it was a bit like my first swim.
But are you glad you did it now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The more people that join in with this, the better. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I recommend it to all my customers.
Yeah. And how much has your confidence grown within the dipping as well? How much has your confidence away from the water grown?
Away from the water, it's grown in different ways. I mean, I've been running my own business now for about 5 years roughly. So in terms of running my business confidence, I've been quite happy in my little bubble with my clients. I've always been happy meeting new people. I've been in sort of networking circles, that kind of thing, to meet new people. But this is a different type of confidence. It's difficult to describe. I don't know how to describe it. It's something else. Absolutely.
It makes you feel like a superhero.
Yeah, well, a bit of that, yeah.
It does. And for anyone listening to what you're talking about, right? So in the winter, when you get out of a reservoir, whether you've broken the ice or, as I'm going to be doing shortly, I've got a big wheelie bin, a big family wheelie bin around the back that's going to get cleaned out. It's going to get filled with water. And when it freezes, I'll be able to dip in there.
Excellent.
The ice. Yes. And it was free. And that's a different story, not for the podcast.
Love it.
But you get, for anyone that doesn't understand, there's that I call it the lobster glow, because you get out the water when you get in the winter, the water will always be warmer than what you're out. So if it's -1 in the car park, the water will still be 6 degrees.
Yeah.
7 degrees, because it doesn't freeze the sea. So, because the sea's constantly moving, so it won't freeze. So you're getting out of the, you'll get into the water, you'll be like, oh, it's warmer in the water. I don't want to get out, right?
Yeah.
But once you get out, your body kicks into overdrive. Your body temperature, your core is still losing heat. And it's you're putting your body into stress. That's what the whole point of cold therapy is, because you're actually controlling the stress. And as you start managing the stress in the water, you start realizing, actually, I can manage stress in real life.
Yeah.
And I can actually, the things that annoyed me in the past don't annoy me now, because, well, I've got in the water, that, these things don't bother me. So your body kicks in, the metabolism just goes, got to keep you alive, boom. Yeah. Your whole body comes alive, and that's the glow, that's the euphoria.
Yeah.
You got out of the water and you're like, oh, I'm alive. Yeah. You get the euphoria, it's amazing. So it is nice for anyone to experience that. And when it comes to the winter dips, Laurie, you will definitely experience those things. It's going to be amazing.
Excellent.
You'll get a glow in your cheeks that you've already got, but you'll get it coming out of the water and you'll be like, oh, wow, I've just done.
Yeah. But we have noticed there's been some mornings where it's been about 7 degrees outside the water, and the water's still been round about the sort of 12 degrees. So we've noticed. And even getting dried in that is a bit of a challenge as well. So hot water bottles in your clothes, wrap your clothes in the hot water bottles. That makes a big difference. There's a little tip.
Nice. We love that. Thank you very much. Is there anything you want to share with the lovely audience of the Dipping Diaries podcast?
I think we've covered it all, really. Just get involved. If you are a little bit worried, reach out to somebody that kind of grabs your attention on the group.
Yep.
I know the Seafield Sinkers, they've started the mentorship. I don't know quite how it works, but I'm one of the mentors on the group. So if you fancy just joining in, you probably got something similar on your group as well with the 5 dippers. But just reach out to someone who you think you're going to make a connection with, and just go for it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Series 1, Episode 1. If there was ever a time that people were going to be applaud Laurie Graham, it would be right now. Thank you very much to listening to the first episode of the Dipping Diaries. There's going to be more coming. Tip number 1 for everybody on the Dipping Diaries is get a mentor, or get someone that will get you in the water. They will teach you some simple breathing techniques. You can do that down at the 5 Dippers with myself and the team down there. The Seafield Sinkers, the Leave and Looney Dukers, the Wild Skins, the Swans of the Beach down at Largo. There's too many to mention. Get yourself dipping. As I always say, just get dipping. Your monkey mind will thank you for it. Thank you very much for tuning in to the first episode of the Dipping Diaries, and we'll be back with future episodes very shortly.